All right, so enough of the small talk. Let's get to business. Sam Malcolm, thanks for being on. Glad to have you. And starting where we started last time, tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, how long you've been juggling, and what you're most excited about when it comes to juggling right now.
Well, I am from a town called Fallon, Nevada. I grew up on a small reservation, and Native American Indian reservation outside of Fallon, Nevada. And I lived there for about 20 years. And I started juggling when I was about 18. And juggling got me out of that. So that was kind of cool. Like, I still love where I'm from, but it was not necessarily going to be the best situation to be living in long term, at least for me. So it helped me get away from that. And yeah, like I'm pretty excited just the idea of juggling lately, because when I started, I really wanted to do technical stuff. I really wanted to be like Anthony Gatto, you know. I really wanted to do all sorts of like insane tricks. And I feel like I still can do insane tricks, but now I'm like just as motivated to go like, all right, well, I want to do insane tricks, but how do I get people who aren't necessarily jugglers to care about it, you know? And one of the ways that I'm really enjoying is just with comedy and making it funny, doing something that's funny with it. Not necessarily making the tricks funny, you know, like I think the trick should be respected, but just trying to find a way to present it that people can relate to and that they laugh at, you know.
Have you discovered any joke or sequence in the last couple of weeks that you're excited about?
I mean, generally, yeah. I guess like I write all the time, so I always have like a new joke or something that I'm trying to come up with or trying to work out. And the past couple of weeks, it's been really good because I started working on a duo show with Tony Steinbach. We're the Plaid Lads. So me and him got to take a lot of our material and try to like either go like, all right, well, this is a good routine. How do we do it with two people? Or go like, all right, well, I've always had this idea, but we need two people. So like, how do we work on it together? So that's something I'm really excited about. It's just the idea of working on a show with somebody else.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see some of that. Tell us a little bit about why you started juggling. You said you grew up in a crappy neighborhood or something?
Well, I don't know if it's like necessarily a crappy neighborhood. It's just that there's not as much opportunity. It's just kind of stagnant. And there are periods where it is a crappy neighborhood, definitely, like crime and stuff. But the thing with juggling that made me want to do it was that it seemed like I really liked performing. I used to spin like fire poi and do that when I was in high school. You know, that's going to scare some people away. But it'll connect you to the flow community. Now, I used to do fire poi, and I really liked that because I liked the idea of performing something that people liked. Like I liked the idea that people would watch this because they thought it looked cool or that it was pretty or that it was like entertaining. So when I found juggling, it was because I saw somebody who was juggling 5 torches, and I was like, holy crap, I need to learn that. That's awesome. And then he taught me how to juggle, and I was like, oh, well, there's a lot more that I can do with this. Like I can really like push this. Like I had a lot more interest in doing that than I ever did with doing something like poi. And I mean, I still like poi. Like I still am into it, and I'll still watch videos, you know, like Chris Kelly and stuff. But juggling, for some reason, especially the technical aspects of it, just really resonated with me, and it seemed like something that was really fun to perform. Like all the videos that I saw of people performing juggling, it looked like they just really enjoyed the juggling.
Totally. And what kind of keeps you going? Is it because it's fun, or because you like the technical aspect, or because you like people seeing you perform?
I'd say it's a little bit of all of that. It kind of depends based on the time of year. Like sometimes I'm really motivated to go practice a lot harder because like I'm like, oh man, I want to, you know, like I want to push my skill really far. And then other days it's like, all right, I'm going to go practice, but it's because like I need to. I really want to just be, you know, in shape for this performance. So then other times it's just because like it's just fun. So like, you know, there's plenty of times I'll just go out and juggle just because it's something to do. And then there's other times where, you know, it's more serious, like it's regimented. Like if I go to practice, that's a pretty serious time for me. Like I don't talk to people. I, scream at little kids, all that stuff. Get off my basketball court. I don't care if you're playing basketball. This is my house.
What kind of juggling communities have you been a part of along the way?
Juggling communities?
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever really been a part of a juggling community. Like even now, I think, I think I'm like kind of go in and out of juggling communities. Like I'm definitely a part of the Boulder juggling scene. Like I go to the juggling club and stuff sometimes and help them with the festival as much as I can, but I don't really do too much with them. Like there's definitely people that are way more active, like Warren or Wubbles or whatever you want to call them. And then I think that from traveling, I tend to just pop into different communities. Like I'm friends with all the people because I'll go to their festivals, or I've been to the festivals, or just from hanging out with their juggling club because I'm in the neck of the woods. And I really enjoy that. Like I like the community as a whole more than I like specific branches of the community to like bond with. Like
right.
I have my own group of friends that I can hang out with too, but it's also nice to just know that if you go somewhere else and you don't know anybody, you can kind of be welcome just because of this one skill.
Totally. I agree. So as far as kind of those closer, that more tight-knit group of friends that you have, who has kind of been with you along the way and pushed you to become who you are as a juggler today?
I'd say one of the people that's pushed me the most to become the juggler that I am today is Tom Wall. That guy, like, well, one, he was one of the first people that I met that was like, okay, this is what you're doing wrong. And that, like, I mean, that's really valuable, especially when you're first starting. Like, a lot of people want to hear that they're doing well, but like, really, like, I learned how to do 5 balls pretty quickly. So then after that, I just had really crappy form. And Tom was like, here's how we're going to fix your form. Here's the drills that I want you to work on. Try this. This will get you good. And then he was right. And I practiced a bunch with him all the time. And Warren Hammond is another person like that, where he would analyze what I was doing and tell me like, oh, hey, I noticed this. Hey, I saw you doing this. Try it this way. You should try working on this. And then for a while, we also had like a nice competitive thing going where like he would work on something, so I would work on something, and then he would work on it, and then I would work on it. And then like we'd kind of push each other based on that competitiveness. Yeah.
All right. That's awesome.
I'd say those two, definitely.
So Warren and Tom. Okay, so real quick, a little advertisement of the sponsor today is this guy right here, Brosaurus Balls.
Brosaurus Balls.
And I don't know if that's a ball joke or not, but that is Sam Malcolm's juggling ball company. He has offered to give away a set of his balls away to a viewer. Now, since we had to reschedule this interview, I'm going to open that up to more than just the comments here. So it'll also be open to anyone that comments on this video. So even if that's on the YouTube page once this video is posted. But anybody who asks questions here or comments here will also be entered to win those. So make sure you ask questions. And also, there's going to be times where you can ask questions. So ask your questions. Mike Moore will send them over to me, and we'll make sure that we get those asked. And while we're on the topic of Brosaurus balls, Sam, can you tell us why they are the balls that people should buy?
Because I make them. No, I think that the thing that I like about making juggling balls, and this is probably kind of stupid, is that it doesn't seem like a lot of times when you're starting out juggling that there's anything to kind of support you in the beginning. I can't really like sponsor people all the time. Like it's not like it's a huge company. It's just a small juggling company. But I try to make sure that, if somebody's really starting, I can get them information that they need on like what they need to do to learn more, what they need to be better. And I try to put that on the website and stuff. And then I make all the balls to be exactly the same. So if you buy one ball now, and then you buy another ball in 5 years, then it's going to be the same ball as the idea. And I think that's kind of important too, is to have that consistency. I kind of got that idea from Henry's. They do that with their clubs. So I wanted to try to make something that was high quality for people, but also was affordable, because I know that not every juggler has like a ton of money. Beanbags are a little expensive, but beanbags are definitely worth it if that's the style that you want. And it's just Brosaurus balls can be cheaper, and also you get Russians, and also you don't have to make them.
Mm-hmm.
You can just press a button and get some sent to you right to your door.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually bought my like first. They weren't really nice, but my first like medium nice balls were from Dubai, and I bought 3, and then when I was working on 5 a couple years later, I ordered 2 more of the same exact ball, and they were totally different. And I was like, oh, bummer.
Yeah, that's a real struggle. I had that when I started juggling too. Like it's kind of frustrating. Like you're like, oh man, I've been using these for years. Oh, well, it's discontinued.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and it was too bad because I mean they were marketed as the same. Like they were a different color. It was a different material on the outside. There's a different amount of filling in them, and it was like, oh, well, I wish that you wouldn't have said they were the same. But what are you gonna do?
I just feel lied to.
I do. I feel we're all lied to.
Yeah, you're just learning lessons from life, or in life from juggling companies.
You got to be careful when you order those juggling balls. Let me tell you. All right, so tell us about a moment in your life or in your juggling life when you just felt like everything was right. Maybe during a practice, a festival, a performance, but when you knew you were exactly where you were meant to be.
I'm gonna have to think about. Oh my god, hold on just a second. That's funny. Tony is calling me.
Oh yeah, look at that. Say, Tony, why aren't you watching?
I'm just gonna send him a link and then I'll answer the question. Okay. So you wanted to know a time where I felt like I was doing the right thing, basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like there's been times in my life where like I've been with friends or something, and I've just been like, that's exactly how it is. Like I'll get together with college friends every summer, and when we're there and we're just sitting and talking and drinking, and I'm just like, oh, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. Has there ever been a moment like that for you in juggling?
Yeah, sort of. Generally at festivals it happens at least, once. But I'd say more recently at IJA last year, that was one of the only festivals I could make it to. And it was a lot of stress because I was competing and I was like really behind on practicing and rehearsing and stuff because I was booked like the whole summer. So it's like I was basically working every day doing shows, and then flew home, and then had to pack up the car and then drive to Texas. So I was like really stressed out the whole time. But there was one day, I think it was like the Wednesday of the festival. It was before all the competitions and stuff, but I was like, I want to go play games. And I had plenty of time to do it. Like I had finished my rehearsal for the day. I had finished practicing. I was like ahead of schedule on everything that I needed to do for the day. And I remember playing the games and like looking at all the people, and I was just like, this is awesome. This is exactly what I want to be doing. These are all the people I want to be hanging out with. This is like where I need to be right now. And I felt really great about it. Like it was just, I don't know, I felt like I did better in some of the games because of that too, because I was just like way more present.
Mm-hmm. Sweet.
So I'd say that was definitely one of them.
How would you say juggling's changed your life for the better?
Well, it's gotten me in better shape. When I started juggling, I wasn't really in the best shape just because I didn't have like a reason to be, I guess. Like I didn't really have like access to a lot of the things that like people think of as like healthy. And then when I started juggling, I was like, oh, well, if I'm out of shape, I can't juggle that well. So I better get into really good shape. So I started like running, and I started lifting weights, and I started like stretching and practicing and stuff. And it helped a lot. Like it just helped my whole mental health overall.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also kind of gave me a better way to learn. Like I always felt like I could like pick things up okay, but when I juggled, I had to learn in a specific way, and I had to figure out how my brain learned things. And that way I could learn how to do a pattern better or something. And then after that, it made it easier to like, I was in college for a big part of the start of my career. So it made it easier to go to school because I could go like, oh, well, this is kind of like juggling. This is kind of like juggling.
Yeah, cool. How have you seen juggling change other people's lives for the better? Yeah,
definitely. I've met I mean, I've met a lot of street performers, just from street performing, obviously, and traveling, that I think that if they did not discover juggling, they would not be as happy with their lives. Like, it seems like a lot of them, they kind of fell into this because they were like, oh, that's kind of cool. Well, I'll learn how to juggle, and then I could do that. And if they didn't have that one thing, like, who knows what they'd be doing, but it just doesn't seem like they'd be quite as happy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other people that I've met like that too, where they have, similar stories to kind of like mine, I guess, where they're like, oh, I lived in a bad place and this helped me get out of it, or I was in a bad place mentally and this helped me figure out why, and it helped me with my anxiety or my depression or something like that. So I think that it is really powerful just because it has it has so much more support behind it. So instead of just going like, all right, well, it's good for you mentally because, juggling helps you recognize patterns, it's also that, like, you instantly get this group of people that support you. They go like, hey, you're a juggler, we're there for you.
Yep. Cool. Hey, so I want to take viewer questions next. So if you're watching, go ahead and start asking some questions. Mike Moore asks, how did you choose what to do for competing in the IJA championships, and how did you practice for it?
Well, I could say how I practiced, I'd say. I kind of just decided to do it. Like, I had been saying that I was going to do it for a really long time, and I told people, like, yeah, I want to do that. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it this year. I have the time. Let's just do it. And then they were like, oh, and also there's $10,000. And I was like, well, there's going to be everybody trying to do it, but it's worth it, like, but the thing that I did to practice that a lot was just trying to go over the routines in stressful settings. So normally, like, I think that if you practice, it's good to get like a little bit of distraction and stuff, but if you want to get the most out of it, it's really good to be kind of isolated somewhere, and that way you could think and you could like be with your own thoughts and stuff. But for practicing for the competition, and I had an assistant for it, so we would go to the gym when there was everybody playing basketball, and we'd go and we'd put on like a little iPod or something, and we would practice with like people running around and screaming everywhere because it was super distracting. And we figured, like, well, if we could put up with the distractions and learn the routine, then it should be easier to do it on stage, right? And I had most of the routine down from when I was in the circus. So a lot of it was just like learning how to interact with an assistant, because we thought that might be kind of cool. Like, that would be something to add that was a little bit different. And then trying to pump up the technical juggling. So I started putting in much, much longer days of technical juggling practice, and then ending them with long rehearsals. And then trying to find times to do rehearsals where it was very inconvenient. So it was like, I need to go rehearse this routine. So rather than waiting until I feel good and I want to go do it, I'm going to get up at like 5 a.m. and go rehearse the routine for 3 hours, because I know that, 1, I'll be really tired. 2, I'm going to be kind of grumpy. And 3, like, I'll have to deal with it all. So like, just trying to find a way to make it more difficult than just, well, I'm going to juggle in a gym a couple times and hope that's good enough. That was kind of our way around it. And it sort of worked.
So you look for a lot of ways to kind of put yourself in challenging situations. Once the routine was already down, to make sure that, if it started raining inside during your performance, for example, because that would never happen, you'd still be able to keep going.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. It's not even about like if it starts raining. It's just so that, like, if something unexpected happens, it doesn't feel like it's the end of the world.
Right.
Like it's most likely not going to start raining, but there could be like a small puddle on the stage for some reason. I know Scotty Meltzer was up there, and I know he gets nervous. So if there was a puddle that he left, like, I want to be able to plan for that.
Got it. That's a good one. Liring Kimray, what is your juggling goal for 2017?
What is my juggling goal for 2017? I want, and this is a secret, so I'm only going to tell everybody who watches this video. I want to find a way to combine technical juggling with stand-up in a way that is presentable for a 7-minute act without putting down juggling. Because I think that a lot of times when I've seen comedy routines that are like that, it's sort of self-deprecating. And I think that jugglers are way cooler than that. So we should like own that, you know?
Oh,
so that's one of my goals.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, not like stopping juggling. Like, I mean, like not insulting juggling. Like, I don't want to say any like, oh, well, I learned this trick because I was all alone and depressed in high school. You know, like that's
right.
I mean, it could be true, but that's not what we should focus on. We should focus on, I learned this trick because it was awesome and it got me laid in high school.
maybe the answer is to make fun of the audience.
Yeah, that could be.
Like,
that could help.
If you weren't such a loser in high school, you could have learned this trick, right?
Yeah, there we go. I found that usually works with audiences if you just, degrade them. If you just insult them repeatedly. So to answer your question succinctly, I would say that my goal is to make juggling cool in a performance sense for everybody, not just for jugglers, but for people who don't juggle. Kind of like what Josh Horton is doing.
Yeah. So you want to be Josh Horton?
No.
No, I just kid. So we were talking about making fun of the audience, and a long time ago, so this is a very fuzzy memory, I watched a video of you busking, and you made some sexual joke, and then...
Sounds right.
And then you made a joke, you made fun of parents because kids were there, and then you're like, you already failed, and it was, I don't remember what you said, but it was funny. Yeah, that went nowhere. That was too fuzzy.
I think I know the joke, actually. I balance something on my face, and then I talk about like how hard it is to get it up. And only the older guys can relate. And then like if your kids laughed at that, you've probably already failed or something.
Yeah. Okay, Lucas Reichenbach, what was your motivation to do the coolest juggling tutorial ever?
Oh, thanks, Lucas. It was actually kind of the same thing from the last question, where I wanted to have something that was kind of entertaining without putting down juggling. Like I wanted to present juggling in a way to people that they'd be like, hell yeah, I want to learn that. Not like, oh, okay, I guess I'm learning this. Like outside of just normal people who want to juggle, there are people who find these videos and they're like, I never considered learning how to juggle. And that's kind of what I wanted was. And I also thought that there was a good niche for having something that was sort of funny. Like I thought if it was funny, it might be better.
All right, so we wanted to talk a little bit about comedy writing. So we touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but to get more specific, do you have any strategies for comedy writing? See, I don't even know how to talk about it, so guide this conversation however you might.
Okay. Well, I was kind of hoping for questions on comedy writing. So if there's anybody that has any questions on things with comedy, that would probably be a good place to jump off of.
Okay. Well, I have some questions.
Okay. You got kind of a weird look in your eyes when you said that.
What do you find to be more successful when you're doing comedy juggling? Is it like one-line jokes or more of like storytelling?
I found that it really depends on the venue. And it also kind of depends on the crowds in the venue. So a lot of times with street performing, one-liners are great because anybody who is there gets the context. Whereas if you're telling like stories, you have to set up premises, and then everybody has to be aware of the premises. I like to try to do both, but I think that one-liners, as far as like if you're starting out, are probably the best place to start, because you can write 10 one-liners, and that might be like a minute or two of material, depending on like, what your cadence is. And you're instantly going to know if they're funny. Whereas if you start to write out a premise, it's really hard to write out a premise and know if something is going to be funny right away, because it takes a lot of just like refinements. You have to constantly work on it and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'd say that with juggling, it's good to do both. But if you're just starting, it's best to start with one-liners. And if you're doing something where the audience doesn't necessarily have a huge attention span, or you're not doing a lot of time, like if you're only doing like 5 minutes, one-liners are great, because sometimes 5 minutes is what it takes to set up a good premise. But you can usually get more laughs on a longer show with a solid premise, because then you can have a lot of callbacks to it later on. Like you could say like, you know, this joke, remember? You know? Mm-hmm. Or you could pick on an audience member and like pick on them again, you know, and people like that. So mm-hmm. I prefer doing, you know, short premises, I say, but I think that one-liners are a lot of fun.
Yeah. Since you do a lot of street performing, I mean, really, I guess any performance, since the performance, especially with juggling, is going to have a lot of kids, how do you make things funny without getting too crude?
I don't know that I'm the right one to ask for that, because I'd still kind of get pretty crude. I tend to try to write jokes in a way that, like, I try to think about them from the perspective of if I were a kid in the audience and I was going to repeat that later, if I would get it or not. So I think that there is something to, like, you know, a lot of performers say lines like, oh, well, if your kids are laughing, it's not my fault, or, you know, you've already failed, or whatever. Like, a lot of performers say something like that, and it's kind of funny to say, but it also is pretty true. Like, you're not going to be able to please everybody. You're always, like, if you're trying to write comedy, like, a lot of comedy comes from kind of dark places, like whether it's yours or others. It's always going to be like a little bit offensive to people, or to some people, mm-hmm. if you want it to be like to have a meaning to it. So you kind of have to get over like, oh man, this might be kind of crude, and then just try it. And if it is like really bad, like, you're going to know right away. My way of it is just to kind of do what I want to do anyway. And then I figured that the people that are at my shows on the street, if they like it, that's like, they're going to stay. And the people who don't like it, they have the choice to leave. If I'm doing something that's like an indoor venue for a gig, or I was hired for something like that, I tend to just like go through and try to find the things that I know are like more appropriate for the crowd, or more appropriate for most people. Like, mm-hmm. I might make like political jokes based on my location, if I'm street performing, but like, if, you know, that's like one of those topics that I think is pretty much off limits if you're going to be doing like a corporate setting. Because like, you're like, well, you know, you're not trying to like speak for the company, you know, you're not trying to, you know, say what everybody should believe. It's not your chance to proselytize. It's your chance to entertain. So. Mm-hmm.
All right. So everybody that's watching, if you have any more questions about comedy, make sure you shoot them over. When you sit down to write comedy, where do you, mm-hmm. Well, you already mentioned that a lot of that comes from kind of dark places in your life. Would you say that, this sounds kind of funny to say, but would you say that's kind of the inspiration behind most of your jokes?
Yeah, I would say so. It's not necessarily like my life necessarily. Like, it's not really like it's always about my life though. Like, it's just dark things in general. I think that a big thing that you can do with comedy that's really good is that you could make something that is bad good. You could find a way to lighten it. There's a quote, I think it's from MASH, that somebody told me years ago, and it was, anger is pain turned outwards, and sadness is pain turned inwards, and comedy is pain turned sideways. I kind of think about it like that. Like, if you hear a really good joke that really hits you, a lot of times it's because you're like, oh yeah, you know, it really gets you thinking, or it really like resonates in your heart. So I tend to try to think about, you know, like, if there's anything that I think is sort of funny, I just write it down, and then I go through and go like, all right, well, why is this funny? Is this funny because of this? Is it funny, you know, like, and then sometimes it turns out that it really isn't that funny. It's just kind of amusing to me. And that's sort of a distinction, you know, is something kind of clever and amusing, or is something like makes you laugh?
Mm-hmm. It's an important distinction too, because usually the things that someone finds amusing personally, everybody else thinks you're weird for thinking are funny.
Yeah, that could be. And like you don't want to end up in a vacuum chamber with that either. Like you can very easily end up in a vacuum where it's everybody around you thinks that that same thing is clever and amusing, but that's not really a good sample or representative of, who's going to be in the audience when you perform.
Right. So like jokes you make on Juggling Rock that are really funny to jugglers might not work so well.
Yeah,
While you're
that's
performing.
actually one of the things I really like about the juggling groups on Facebook and stuff is trying to find a way to write jokes that jugglers find funny specifically, or that people who, because like that's one of the things that we all have in common. So how do we find something that we have in common and then make fun of it a little bit so that we can enjoy it a little bit more? So that's but other people. I posted a thing on my Facebook earlier with about inviting Dan Holtzman to David Kane's potluck that we imagined. Um, and like all the people that I know who are not jugglers probably aren't going to get that reference. They're not going to get why that's a little bit funny. So,
yeah. What is an example, if you can think of one, of a joke that just totally flopped when you told it?
well, I just did an open mic last night, so I probably have like 2 or 3 written down that I could find that totally don't work. I'm trying to think of any that I liked that never worked, because that's a thing, is that you're like, oh man, this joke is great. People liked it. I'm pretty sure this is a great joke. And then you're just like kind of heartbroken because you're like, I really want this to work. I'm going to keep saying it. Let me see. I can't really think of it like anything right offhand. But I might have something saved. I try to like take notes on everything. So if I do a joke that hits really well, I try to write down like, hey, this joke works really well.
Yeah.
And if I do a joke that bombs terribly, I say like, oh, never say this again.
Well, a follow-up question for that is, what is is there a theme that runs across all the jokes that flop? That yeah.
Not really. The only theme that I'd really be able to pick out is that most of the time when jokes flop, it's because there's not enough context. Like people don't. It's either like there's like 2 things I think that make a joke not work. It's either like the delivery is not right, so your timing is off, or there's like specific context that the audience needs or that the people listening need to make the joke funny. And that's kind of what we were saying before. Like if you just tell a joke about, like if you say, oh, this is one of my favorite old jokes. Tom told me this one a long time ago. It's oh, if you ever want to learn the 6-ball shower, if you ever want to learn how to be the type of person that does a 6-ball shower, you have to just be one. So that's like a really dumb side swap joke because it's be one. But if you try to tell that to somebody who does not know juggling and does not know side swap, and really like even people who do, they might not get that one. So it's like, well, that's the context involved. And I think that that's more frequently what ends up happening. Like you're like, oh, this is a really clever thing. Everybody knows about this. And you're like, everybody doesn't know about this.
Which also explains why, depending on where you are, different political jokes are funny or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I feel like that probably makes comedy really hard when you're traveling, because you have to. It's I don't know, your jokes or your script has to be kind of malleable to where you're going.
I think ideally it is, and I think that there's 2 frames of thought on that, where there are performers who feel like, no, you need to just make a script that works for everybody, which is, it's not impossible, but I think you end up having to take a lot of hits because of that. Like it's not necessarily going to be as fulfilling, because you start to find that like the things that everybody can relate to are kind of like lowbrow jokes a lot of times. Like it's like, everybody has pooped, so you can make a poop joke, but like, do you really want to spend, your career telling poop jokes to people? So, but then the other side is that like, yeah, just constantly write stuff and then try it out and try to find what people like in different areas everywhere that you go. Because in the United States, traveling state to state, people have different senses of humor. The sense of humor that people I know back on the reservation have compared to people within the town even, and people in just like towns where there are no reservations is completely different. Like that's its whole other branch is reservation humor. And that's all references that people get. So like, it's like that state to state and city to city, but then you get into like different countries. And then like, I had an experience in Canada that I could think of where a joke bombed, and it was just because of one word. And it was because like I did not quite know the culture well enough yet to understand like what would be good and what would be bad, or what they would like. It was just I don't even remember really what the joke was, but it was just a word that people don't use there. So when I said it, people are like, what? Like it was just confusing. Whereas when I changed the word, then it wasn't confusing anymore.
That's interesting. All right, my last question for comedy writing is, how has your style, your tactics, how have they evolved over the years?
That's a good question. That's a really good question, actually. I'd say that the thing that has changed a lot from when I started is that a lot more jokes are premeditated. So I'd still try to like go like kind of riff off of things and things that are going on or people in the crowd or whatever. But when I started, that was like the one thing that I relied on the most. Like that was it, and to me, it kind of felt the equivalent of like if you see a really good basketball player, but they're only good because they're more athletic than everybody around them. Like you can do that for so long, and then eventually like you're just not going to be as good at it as other people. Like you are going to slow down in age. So when I started, I would go like, all right, what is funny right now in this moment? Excuse me. And try to like just do that every time and be like, oh, how do I do this every time? Because like all these performers that I'm seeing, it just seems like they're making it all up. But then as I went on, I was like, oh, they're not making it up. They're just more relaxed, and they're like figuring out how to make it feel like it's all like coming from the moment. So that was the one thing that's changed, is that now I can fake it. Just to naturally be in the moment, I guess, rather than trying to force it.
Right. Okay, so this is still sort of related. I had a couple questions about performing live. Okay. One is, what is your favorite type of venue to perform in?
Favorite type of venue? I really enjoyed performing in the circus. I think that's really fun. The people are generally really happy to see the acts. You have a lot of space. You're like given a little bit more freedom over what you can do, at least usually. I honestly lately, like part of the reason I street perform so much is because I really like it, just for the fact that I get to meet people from all different backgrounds. And that like if you do a show on a stage, a lot of times people have to want to go see you, or they have to want to see the show that you're in. Whereas if you're on the street, nobody has to want to be there. They just decide if they want to. So it feels more rewarding. Like you get to earn people rather than just getting people handed to you. Like it's a lot harder, definitely, but like you get done and like all those people not only like really liked what you did and they're really happy, but also they were like, I wasn't even planning on doing this. This is amazing. You know, they're just stoked. So
that's cool.
I'd say that it's kind of a tie between those two, but street performing lately is big.
Hey, fun fact, or fun coincidence, I just got a random like spam call from Colorado Springs. So
nice. Weird. Focus on the family.
Yeah, apparently. Another question from Lucas Reichenbach. Do you have a favorite place or town to perform on the streets?
Not really. I really liked performing in Key West, Florida when I was down there last year, just because it felt like the people that were going down there were like, it was just a little bit easier, I guess. Like the people that were there were in the crowds. It was like a little bit easier to entertain them. So it was nice because it was kind of like me going on vacation, and it was just like I was going there to work, but I was also going like, it didn't really matter if I made any money. I was just kind of going to hang out with friends, and then I'd also have the opportunity to work once a night. So then I got to do like the equivalent of of a vacation series of shows. Like I didn't have to work as hard. I can just kind of relax. And once that, like, it took a bit to get dialed in, but like after that, it was just kind of like, yep, I'm going to do my show. Everybody come watch. And they'd go, okay. And everybody watches. And then it was fun.
Yeah. You said Key West, so it reminded me that I would just tell a random story. My wife and I were in Key West. We were on a cruise and we stopped in Key West, and there's no like beach. So I found on a map that there was like a state park like 2 miles away. So we walked from the cruise ship to the state park. We get to the state park and it starts pouring down like rain, and then it starts a thunderstorm, and we're like, we're just like, we're going to wait it out. It's going to be all right. But then we're like, you know what? This is getting way too dangerous. So we decided to go back, start walking back to the boat. And like on our way back, literally like 20 feet from where we were standing, an electric pole got struck by lightning. And it was like one of the scariest moments of my life. So,
and you guys didn't take this as a sign or something?
Well, this was a few years ago. I don't know. What would the sign be?
I don't know.
We'll go to Key West.
Get back on the ship. God.
Yeah. That's what it was. So we did. We followed that divine guidance to a T. All right. So another question I had about performing, where were we? Oh yeah. So we talked about reading audience based on geography. In the moment, when you're sitting there telling jokes, how do you read the audience and know what to tell next or to change up what you were planning on saying?
Body language. It's all body language. If you want to learn how to read people's body language, then street performing is probably the hardest thing that you're going to do. It's all about, like, you look at people and you can tell like these like really minute details where you look at somebody and you're like, oh, this person would probably think this was funny because their left arm is a little bit to this side more than their right arm, you know? Or like, this person seems a little uncomfortable. I should try to help them lighten up a little because like their arms are crossed, you know, or laughing, but they're a little bit shy to laugh. Like we should get them to laugh really hard, you know, like go right up to them and get them to laugh, and then they'll lighten up a little bit more. So that's the big thing, I think, is just the body language.
And then the last thing about performing is when you're busking, obviously it's, to make money. So what are some tactics you found to actually make money busking?
So everybody wants to know how to get like the most money from a street show. And there is one like secret that no street performer will ever tell you. And it is, if you want to make the most money in a street show, really entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know it sounds like it's like a stupid, sarcastic answer, but it's absolutely true. Like if you want to do a show and you want people to like go like, oh, this is really good, here is, $10. Then you need to make sure that it's actually worth $10 to them. You need them to be like, hell yeah, $10. Like, because think about, like, especially now, one, you can see tons of amazing things on YouTube. Like, you could watch all the everyday juggler podcasts, you can see everything that you can imagine is on YouTube. So that's free. So you have to compete with that. Like everybody has a smartphone. You're competing against that. And then if you're not competing against that, you're competing against stuff like go-karts. Mm-hmm. Like it costs, I don't know, it's like $8 to go to the go-kart track where I live. And it's just like a small one. It's not like one of the fancy ones. The other one's like $20 to go for a ride around the go-kart track. Mm-hmm. So if you think about like, going to like the adult go-kart track where you can ride a car that goes like 40 miles an hour around a real race course and wear a helmet, and how much fun that is. Mm-hmm. And you want to make $20 as a street performer, you have to be way more fun than a go-kart at 40 miles an hour. Like it's
yeah, it's true. Well, yeah, well, I don't know why I keep saying that. And you need to be honest too.
I think honesty helps a lot. If you're just genuine, like you're like, I'm out here because I want you to have fun, and I'm having fun. people can tell. If you're not having fun, you can't lie about it. People, if you're willing to go out and street perform and you're going to read people's body language to try to make sure that they're having a good time, like they're going to read yours too. So if you're upset, they're going to go like, "Ooh, he's upset." And hive mind groups of people are really good at deducing the emotional states of one person. Like everybody kind of comes to the same conclusion and starts thinking together. So like if you're not having fun and you're just going out there because you're like, yeah, I want to make some money, then everybody's gonna go like, oh, that guy's just doing this for money. He probably hates it. Mm-hmm. But if you go out and you're like, yeah, I love this. This is awesome. Then they're gonna be like, yeah, this is good.
Sweet. So. Okay, so one of the things you mentioned is that you're competing with free stuff like Everyday Juggler podcast, and it is free. So if anybody wants to support Everyday Juggler on patreon.com, head over to patreon.com/everydayjuggler for $1 a month. You can get some special content.
$1 a month. That's such a deal. That's a great value.
Such a deal.
What do you get for $1 a month, Sean?
For $1 a month, you can get a full list of the videos I consider every week for my highlight reels and bonus interviews. So far, we got Delaney Bayless, Norby Whitney, and soon Sam Malcolm. So make sure you guys check out Patreon.
That is quite a treat. But like, I could donate more money per month if I wanted to, right? Is that okay?
Yeah, I would love for you to do that. Yeah, you could donate as much as you wanted. And I know you want to donate more, so go ahead. And it's especially great value for you because you'll be able to see a bonus interview of yourself. And who doesn't want that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to watch it every day.
All right. So what are some tips you've got for aspiring professional jugglers?
Why? Why? Well, I guess actually why is probably a good place to start. Why do you want to be a professional juggler? Mm-hmm. Because if your answer is anything short of because I love it and I want to entertain people, it's going to be a very difficult road for you. There are easier ways to make money. There are smarter ways to make money. And it's going to be kind of an emotional investment that you might not be prepared for. So one of the things that I would say if somebody really wants to be a professional juggler is that they should be ready to do anything. So like you can't go into it like, I'm going to be a professional juggler and I'm just going to do technical juggling. Because while that's true, you can do technical juggling. It takes so long to work up to that point that like, you got to be prepared to like, all right, well, I'm also going to work a normal job every day for a while. I'm also going to like do really crappy gigs for a while, to get promo and stuff like that. So, you have to pay your dues. You have to work up to it. And if you don't want to do those things and you just want to, I don't care, I just want to juggle, like, go for it. But you're also going to have to do the same. Like, you're going to have to pay some dues and you're going to have to like go out there and do things that you might not have really pictured as part of the juggling career. You might have to wear a costume, and that's that's okay. There's nothing wrong with wearing costumes. There's people who aren't jugglers who wear costumes. So I mean, how weird are they?
Probably not as weird.
So I'd say like, yeah, just try to keep an open mind if that's the one thing that you want to do with your life.
Sweet. Okay, so here's some quick fire questions. What's your favorite trick or pattern to do?
My favorite trick or pattern, 7-7-1 with 5 balls, pancakes with 5 rings, and I kind of hate clubs, but I really like 6-4-5 with 5 clubs.
Okay. What about to watch?
What about to watch? I don't watch juggling.
Okay.
No, I'd say 9-7-5-3-1 is one of the prettiest patterns to watch. Absolutely.
What is your favorite festival to go to?
Flatland, the juggling festival that's either in Lincoln or Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
So, Flatland is great.
Favorite prop to use?
Favorite prop? Rings is definitely up there. I honestly really enjoy juggling torches. Like, I enjoy juggling torches more than I enjoy juggling clubs. But rings are definitely up there. They're probably tied.
Goes back to your fire poi spinning.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Feel the love, man.
Favorite brand of torches and rings?
My rings, the rings that I like are the old Absolute Circus rings that they don't make anymore, and I don't think anybody really sells. So if you can find a set of those, they are the best juggling ring you will ever buy. They are indestructible. They look great, and they're like the right weight and thickness and stuff. So the Absolute Circus ones, the newer ones are okay. The play rings are similar; they're just a little bit brittle. And for torches, I really like the Henry's Night Flights. I think those ones are great. They juggle really well. That's, if you care about how they juggle, at least.
Yeah. What jugglers have you looked up to?
Anthony Gatto. Anthony was probably the biggest inspiration for me as a juggler for the first 4 years of my career as a juggler. I used to watch all of Anthony's videos. I would email him and stuff and ask him questions. The person that taught me was this guy, CJ Smith. And he is one of the only people to have trained with Anthony and his dad. So CJ, he was from Nevada as well. And he went down to Vegas and he lived with Anthony and Nick for a month or two when he was younger and learned. And then when I started, he was like, well, this is how you practice. This is how they taught me how to practice. Try it like this. And that helped a lot. So then I always was like, oh, well, that's what I want to be. Clearly he's the best,
Sweet.
And that's still partially true. There's definitely more creative people, that's not as traditional that I like more now. But yeah, Anthony is definitely the biggest influence. Warren Hammond is calling me now, by the way, everybody.
Oh my gosh.
Go watch the Everyday Juggler podcast right now because it's happening.
All right. So in 5 years, when you look back on your juggling career, what do you want to be able to say you accomplished?
In 5 years. I'm not really sure. I haven't really given that much thought. I'd say that the one thing that I want to have accomplished is I want to have actually made juggling cool for some people. I want people to not be, oh, well, I juggle and kind of ashamed. I want them to be like, yeah, I juggle, That's the one thing that I want. I want people to be bragging to their friends on YouTube that they learned how to juggle or making Facebook posts that they finally got it or something.
Right.
And yeah, that would be it. And I'd also like to, give creative routines back a little bit, kind of put them out so people can see stuff that's new and exciting. Or funny, I want to put my own spin on comedy juggling, I guess.
Sweet. What I'm going to ask, your best practice tip, and then
consistency. Do it every single day. Every single day. If you want to get better, every single day. And do it, if you can, at the same time every single day. Your body will thank you for it. Your body will get in the rhythm of being able to, you make all sorts of weird associations with everything in your life. Habits form because of associations. People talk about, they can't help but snack when they go home from work and they sit down and watch TV or something. But it's because they have this association with eating when they sit down. So you need your body to have an association with juggling. And you want your body to have the association long enough that it bleeds over into other things. So that if you go to the gym, I'm going to practice. If you go to the park, you're going to practice. Wherever you're going to go, your body goes yeah, this is the time to do it. So then when you recreate those things later, and then you find that you can juggle outside of that, your body goes oh, these places must all be the same. So it's a big mental game, I think.
Yeah, totally. I'd never really thought about the practicing at the same time every day, but that makes perfect sense. The reason I was confused is because I forgot I was going to ask this question from Mike Moore. Do you have any other hobbies that you enjoy?
Yeah, actually, I really like working on my car. I have a '88 Corvette, that I spend money on like it is a child. So, yeah. So, yeah. See, that's one of those jokes that like your audience. Sean gets how much money children cost.
That's true. That's true. And that my finances are like bleeding money. It's just that it's like a consistent every week thing. I know that a certain amount of money is going to be going towards her.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, I have a car that I work on. I'd say I think that having hobbies is kind of a hobby. Like I like to just try to find weird stuff that I can go do. Like for a while, I really liked roller skating just because it was kind of fun. Like it's just something. And exercise is big. Like I like riding bikes and stuff like that, and hiking, and just other things that are active. Like that's one of the things that I really like about juggling is that it was active. So things that are active are fun. I was thinking about like when I quit juggling, I might start like a construction business or a gardening company or something too. Just to
maybe like a cement finishing business.
Yeah, something like that. Just to stay active, like something really hands-on.
All right. So if people want to find your stuff, where can they find you?
If you want to find me online, I have a Facebook fan page. And if you want to find that, it's at Sam Malcolm Show. If you want to find me on Twitter and hear my political rants as of late, and also half-baked jokes, that one is at Sam Malcolm. If you want to find me on Instagram, that's at Sam Malcolm Show. You can also find Brosaurus Balls, which is at Brosaurus Balls. I have a website that's sammalcolm.com. And if you want to book me for your outdoor event, you could find my outdoor website, outdoorcomedy.com. I don't know why a juggler would want to book me for an outdoor event, but it could happen.
You never know.
And if you want to find me in real life, I live in a small suburb about 15 miles away from Denver, known as Broomfield. And you can find me there sometimes. And that's about all the information I'm comfortable with giving people on the internet.
All right, great. All right, final word to the community at large.
Okay. That was my final word, right? You just wanted one?
Sorry. All right, let me change it. Final words of inspiration. How about that?
Final words of inspiration. All right. Be nice to people, but don't think that means you have to agree with them. Disagree with people if you feel like it's necessary, but don't think that it means you need to be a dick. And have fun. I think that's all any of us want. We should all just have fun, try to make a difference. If you're doing something, do it passionately. If you're not doing something, don't stress. You'll find something to do eventually. Yeah, just try to make the most of your time. That's what I would say.
All right, great advice. I love it. Just like I love you.
Well, I love you too, Sean. I can't wait to take this relationship further.
Right. Me neither.
Mike and Emily got married, Sean.
Yeah, it's true.
So congratulations to them, by the way. But I'm just saying, Sean, just saying.
Someone already put a ring on. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm into that.
You do live out in the Midwest.
Midwest, where swingers go to retire.
All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. It's been a good time with Sam. Hope you enjoyed this interview, and Sam is thankful that people like him, and I am too.
Yeah, I'm happy you had me, Sean, by the way. Thanks everybody.
All right, thanks for tuning in. I already said that. All right, until next time, keep on juggling.